All right. I am calling to order the meeting of the Finance Committee on January 3rd, 12:33 p.m. The agenda is on the screen. And it includes two items, basically a review of the projects that we've been working on and a discussion of the role of the Finance Committee. Now, I have touched base with everyone but Ellen on the second item, just to kind of give people a heads up.
Okay,
So, I apologize for that. I ran out of time, basically.
that's all right.
I'm wondering, I think we should have the second discussion first. So if there's no objections, and I'm going to postpone the approval of the minutes as well, because I don't think the minutes from May 6th have been completed yet. And there are no citizens than us, so
Right.
I can go through those items. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Sorry, I should have started with that. Hearing none, and there are no, we've talked about the approval of minutes, there are no citizen comments. So I'm just going to suggest that we switch the order of 5 and 6. Just because I think it would, to make sure we get through 6. So, and let me just tee up this discussion briefly. I think in parallel, several of us were having sort of a similar feeling of sort of pushing on a string a little bit. Triggered specifically, and then sort of those feelings, I think, sort of bubbled up more to the surface, triggered by the conversation that Kareem and I had about a week ago. Kareem has been working on the benchmarking project, frustrating that other towns aren't cooperating, but also that we can't get really any time of the local management team. Totally understandably, I've had this discussion with Eric, everyone understands, the situation that he and the management team and Robert are in. But that makes it hard on the benchmarking project. It makes it impossible so far to date on the projects, Ellen, that you've been working on, right? In terms of trying to get a sense of software and so forth, because you raised 1 or 2 meetings ago. On the aqueduct company, water company / financial model, which is the projects have merged for the moment, or in some sense, parts of them have merged. Todd and I are making progress going through the data, but we also need to engage with the water company. We need to do that through the town. We've tried to do that, and in fact, Eric, the last request we had, if you remember, was to get some data about pipe sizes and so forth. Eric had spoken to them about it, had requested the data. It didn't seem to exist. He said he would go back and ask again, but it's very slow, and these guys are very busy. I think add that, this is my opinion now, to the fact that when we were first assembled, first commissioned, our role was defined primarily by Jill and me, and maybe Jill, a couple of other people helped, because there was no one else to do it. And so we never heard from the select board proactively, this is what we want you to do. This is before Eric came in. We proposed that here's what a finance committee ought to be doing. They said fine, without editing anything. And then Eric has come in, and obviously Eric has, and with Robert, has a lot more financial experience than the past team. So all of that, I think, plus primarily, more than any of that, the workload has sort of led us to sort of be operating, in my view, kind of pushing on a string. And so, Kareem, what you and I talked about, and Jill and I talked briefly and modified it slightly, was rather than sort of make a big brouhaha about this, but also to avoid sort of spending these times in these meetings and pushing on things that we're pushing on a string. What Kareem and I talked about was to sort of put us on hold for 6 months or for some period of time until such time as the select board, had something for us to do. Or a more flexible version of that idea, Kareem, was what Jill and I talked about, making the finance committee an ad hoc committee, meaning when we are summoned, like we don't have to not take the oath and then have all that formality redone, and no one has to be, we don't have to shut the committee down, but we will be summoned when the town manager or the select board summons us with a specific task. Here's the help and advice that we would like. Here's the input we'd like to do. I suppose we could always say, well, we're not equipped to do that, but presumably it would be a financial issue, and we would say, great, we'll work on that. Here's the support we need, and then when we're done with that, we would give them the result, and we would be ad hoc again until the next time we were called on. And if for some reason, maybe if we're not called on for some period for a year or something, we could say, well, maybe we should, in other words, ending it isn't really the point. It's really just not pushing on a string. Just always be in a situation where it's a very clear objective because we've been asked by the town to help them, which is what we were supposed to be doing. So, do other people, so anyway, that's sort of the context of it. And again, Ellen, now you're fully up to speed. Yeah. Okay, so our comments, thoughts about this?
I've been thinking about this, and it feels the right thing to do. It feels like we came into being because the skills were needed, and just setting out what we wanted was a huge step forwards. And it feels to a certain extent that we were trying to make sure certain things happen. And now we have a completely different confidence level that things are going to happen, perhaps slower than we'd like, but things are going to happen. So it feels like our role, it's the right time to change what our role is and what we're trying to do.
Kareem, you were going to say?
Yeah, so I have a couple of points. One, and it's not a criticism of Eric or his management team, because they probably did not foresee some of the things that came down the pike, such as the head of the highway department leaving, etc. But it would have been helpful if we would have known ahead of time that there was higher than say 60% probability that we may not be able to get any help at all on some of those projects. And when I'm talking about help, it's mostly data, because Roger and I did invest quite a few hours, and then for various reasons, I really feel that our project needs to be shut down. We can talk about it later when we give the update. So I guess lesson learned is that in the future, but in the future might be different, because as you put it, John, we will be requested to do something, as opposed to us asking, should we do that? And we get a yes answer, and then we realize, well, maybe they were too confident in having us do that. So that's one point. The second point has to do with, I personally, and that's my personality, don't like things hanging out in the open. Like, yeah, it's fine. We could be on an ad hoc basis, dormant until they actually need us. But at some point, if we are dormant for longer than a certain period of time, I think automatically it should sunset and the committee should be closed down, because otherwise there is this uncertainty as to whether there is a finance committee in town or not. And I don't think this is very clean from a process point of view, but that's me personally.
Another thought then, Kareem, just brought about by what you're saying. Maybe we have 2 meetings a year, and we ask twice a year that Eric and Robert come and present to us at about the progress they're making.
Yes, I mean, I'm not sure the progress on what, because we have to agree on what project they would be updating us on. That's one. And two, just putting myself in their shoes, they don't report to us, right? They report to the select board. So I know what you're getting at, which is, okay, maybe we could discover areas where they might need help, but at the same time, I'm just putting myself in their shoes, where they may not necessarily feel that this is actually needed to update us, and for what reason would they be updating us, Jill? Actually, what's the action that would be related to that?
Well, so we are a group of people who are very financially aware. We do want to make sure that the town has good finances. That's why we came together in the first place, because things were in such a mess. So we could be asking just basic questions like, And how's the audit going this year? Is it going to be ready before May of the following year? How's it going getting changing the computer system, and are we still talking to Oracle, and where's that going? And we would be asking questions that the select board do not ask and will not ask.
Okay, all right, so put that way, which is making sure that those things that we thought were important and that actually also Eric thought were actually important, and getting an update on them and perhaps suggesting a course of action if they're stuck, etc. But I would feel more comfortable doing it if we have the backing of the select board, that they agree that this should be our role going forward, which is an accountability check.
Right, because
shouldn't-
the select board appointed us, so if we change our role, we do have to go
Yeah.
back and talk to them,
Okay,
Well, we
but
could-
that's
well,
going to happen anyway.
all right,
yeah.
but again, I don't see this going ad infinitum, so at some point, besides being, a sanity check on what's going on from a financial point of view. I'm just troubled by the fact that there would be a finance committee that's semi-dormant, ad infinitum.
Well, we can
Unless-
always make our role budget.
Well, we
Yeah.
can, yeah, I would be opposed making or doing I would be opposed doing anything that's been unasked.
Uh-huh.
What we could
Oh.
do is suggest to the select board that they allow us to, that they call on us to ask them questions. In a way that, might provoke some ideas for them. But
Yes.
I wouldn't want to say that. I would say you call that meeting, not that it's going to happen. It's your meeting, you call it. When you call it, we'll be ready. And if we have a time limit on that, Kareem, after 1 year, if they don't call on us for either, and so it's really otherwise this is just my opinion, highly confident that whatever we do we will find ourselves pushing on a string because people are busy. There's no ill will and it's just that people are busy. And so that they either prioritize, we should, and I respect Kareem's point about not wanting to be part of a group where you don't know if you're ever going to be called on, which is fine. I mean, we can deal with that.
Hey, Ray,
But
thanks for calling. I'm on the finance committee. Can I?
You're not muted,
Back when we're done?
Kareem.
Yeah, thanks,
Kareem,
bye.
Kareem.
All right, Tom, can I just ask for your?
Yeah.
Ellen, I'll give you the most time.
Yeah, I think my first boss told me the company takes on the character of its commanding officer, or the fish stinks from the head down, if you want to be less charitable. I think it's very clear that Ray.
Tom, hold on. Let me just interrupt for 1 second. We're in the conference room in the town hall, just on a speakerphone, so. Yeah,
Okay.
And
I-
we're recorded.
I just they are going to behave the way they want to behave. If you look at what they did with the discussions we were having about town hall, they went their own way, did their own thing, announced it in the standard. If you look at what's going on with the water company, they've kept the whole water working group at a distance. They're doing everything confidentially, and that's all okay. I don't begrudge them that. I think they're showing their cards as to how they wish to behave, and I think they don't have much use for us. Now they may have use for us at some point in the future, but they haven't so far. And I don't think we should fight that. It is pushing on a string. I agree with you, John. But I think we should wake up and smell the coffee in terms of they don't really think we're helping them out.
Ellen, comment?
Well, I guess I haven't had as much
Right,
time to
you have
think
not.
about it. But I did think about coming to this meeting today, so I'll just talk about that. That, we have this agenda. It's been very frustrating the past 2 meetings. And I just say, well, I have 2 projects, there's no movements on them. I did switch to that wastewater one, and Jill has requested information, over a month ago. And so we didn't do anything on it unless Jill did
No,
something. And then
I was about
just
to,
looking at the other ones on the list. I mean, I saw the emails about the benchmarking. So I knew that was off the table.
Right.
And I just don't see anything. This was my thought as I came to the meeting, that we don't really have anything to talk about because nothing has happened on any of those. So why are we wasting our time?
So you
So
did, so you did have time to think about it.
Well, that's my thought, okay?
Well, I'm glad
I think that's probably the point, and that's probably why. I mean, when I think about all the different things that I'm doing, this is at the bottom of the list.
Mhm.
Right. It is for me too, yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, we could just say, look, we're frustrated and it's nobody's fault. You know, we could resign en masse, but then that wouldn't look good for the town.
Yeah.
But there's another way to position it. It's true that there is better bench strengths, you know, with Eric and Robert, but they're overwhelmed. It would be great if we had, you know, several Roberts helping out Eric. Maybe we could just simply say, look, we're around for 6 months. If you need us between now and the end of the year, and if we don't hear from you by the end of the year, if you don't want to sunset the committee and you want to hire other volunteers, great. But I personally, if nothing is placed in front of me between now and December, I'm not going to review. That's it.
Well,
So
Okay.
I'd highly recommend that we do not disband. It took a lot to get us formed. And
I agree with that.
there is a role for a finance committee in the town, that many other towns have finance committees, that, I mean, we're just following normal committees. We do want to stay established, but we don't have any direction at the moment, and that's what we're looking for, direction, not whether we should be or not be.
Now, one thing that, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Jill. Is that you're?
It's
Are
okay.
you done? Yeah, okay. One thing that the timing of this, I can't remember if I mentioned this. I think I mentioned it to someone else. But the timing of this actually is opportune in the following sense. The select board is supposedly, I've been told now for 3 months, that is going to call on all of the commissions that are appointed to give them an overview of their mission and their approach and their priorities and so forth. And for a group like the EDC, you know, we're prepared to do that. We've been talking about that for quite a while, and we also have been given direction, which is unfortunately only 4 words: economic and community development, but still, it's direction and money. I think it's a great opportunity for us to simply say to the select board, we have nothing to present. In other words, you absolutely should have a complete understanding of the vision and the direction of each of their commissions. As soon as you give us that, we will start operating. My suggestion from an operational point of view, Kareem, trying to now just kind of thread the needle between, well, understanding your perspective, which I think is perfectly reasonable, but I'd rather not, without violate, we all understand your point of view, but I'd rather not put a time frame on it for now. What I would rather do is say to them, say to the select board and to Eric, you say, look, you know, we're ready to be called on. We don't want to disband, but we don't have, but until you, and so tell us whenever you would like, tell us what you would like us to do. Until then, we'll wait to hear from you. There are some, I'll simply say there are some people who, you know, if after 6 or 12 months, we don't hear anything, they may want to step aside, or if you want to have different people and so forth, we're all willing to step aside. We don't want to disband yet, but the ball is in your court, something like that. It's not very articulate. But rather than having an official view that all of us say that if after 6 months, then we disband. That doesn't mean, by the way, that you can't act on what you just said after 6 months, and you've given us the heads up that that's what you would do, which I think is fine. Sorry, Joe, go ahead.
Do you think we should preview this with Eric?
I've previewed it with him, but told him not. His response was, okay, I'll speak to the select board tonight. I said, no, this is just my opinion as to what we're going to discuss. Please wait for that. He said, okay, fine. He's okay with it. But yes, I think we but I previewed without the 6-month thing, I previewed the idea of an ad hoc thing and so, I mean, I previewed what we're basically talking about. He,
Right.
I think, I mean, it was a brief conversation. It was, 5 minutes before we began. But yes, so the short answer, Jill, sorry, is yes, we definitely should preview with him and get input from him.
Okay.
By the way, if my comments earlier seemed ad hominem, I didn't mean them ad hominem in any kind of critical way. But to take the water company deal, for example, most deals that I work on, you start with an organizational meeting, you have a list of tasks, you have a time schedule, you have an assignment, you have benchmarks. We could do all those things while leaving all the sensitive negotiations to Eric and the select board. And we don't have to, on a need-to-know basis, know much of anything. I have no objection to that. We're not looking to be part of the negotiation, but it's just a question of style. What do you want to do? If you don't want us to do that, then you really don't want a finance committee.
Right.
And
but
I agree. I just do not want to give given what it took to make us established, I don't want to allow the select board to agree with that we're not needed. That's all.
I think we want to avoid, I think Tom, we satisfy the impact of this situation. We're no longer wasting our time. But I think the best way to force the best decision on the part of the select board is to not force the question now and see if they call on
I
us.
agree.
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree.
So what's a little disappointing, and I have to tell you, is that I've heard from several people in town who are not necessarily financially inclined and who are of a certain age, meaning they're in retirement. And these are Woodstock residents. I've heard it from 3 different people that are not connected to each other, that they feel comforted in the idea of knowing that there is such a thing as a finance committee watching over what's going on and making sure it doesn't get more out of control than it already has been, with the whole fiasco with the school, etc. Right? Because in their mind, all this is connected, even though we may not necessarily be able to influence what's happening on the school. They just view it as a financial activity. And to them, if word gets out that the finance committee is not doing anything, I'm not sure how this will go down, actually. I don't know.
Well, the interesting thing is, Kareem, that we're not being used as we envisaged. So in a way, what we're saying is, let's rethink the whole thing. Like, we'd really love every financial decision to come before us, but that's not happening. The village trustees bought police cars out of budget, without even talking to us when we've been slaving away on the budget. So it feels like it's all happening in the wrong order. So first we need education about who is the finance committee, what could they do, how does it work in other towns? Oh, we need one. And then you need a period of time over which the select board and the trustees say, wow, that's a financial decision. Has it been to the finance committee? And that might need to take a year. And we try to push it by doing special projects, and that isn't working.
Yeah, but
So-
you see, Jill, I think more than 50% of the people on 2 boards are smart enough to understand the role of the finance committee. And if we're not consulted, there's probably a reason. Either they didn't want us to look into it. They thought it was
No,
a pain in the butt.
Kareem, it is not coming like that. They just don't think about it. And so we've got to get in there so that they do think about it. And it's not because they're trying to ignore us. They just don't think about it. And the 2 are very different.
Maybe, well, that's why I'm coming back to what I said. I know it sounds like an ultimatum, but either you think about it between now and the 6 months to come, or it means that you don't see, any use for a committee like that. And obviously, I don't agree. I think there's value to be added. from people who are volunteering and who spend most of their career in some fashion in finance type of related. So that's why I'm adopting a harsher stance of a semi-disguised ultimatum. But you may not agree with me.
I think Kareem is raising.
That's a wake up call. I think they need a wake up. Sorry.
Kareem is raising a very interesting point about which makes it a little tricky, Jill, to, although I agree with you, Jill, about the hard work to create it, let's not uncreate it. But the existence of it, if that gives people comfort, that's a problem if we're in abeyance.
Oh,
And so we need to, I think there's a way to thread that needle too. With a clear statement that, you know, we're committed, that it's not providing, anyway, with some clear communications, which is tricky because we don't want it to be embarrassing. But I do think it's important
great.
that we not leave the impression that there is a group that's overseeing just the things that you said makes people comfortable.
Yeah.
I think maybe the way to say, we don't have to work out the exact words. I mean, maybe the way to say it is, look, we're not sure that people should be uncomfortable if there isn't a finance committee overseeing things. We have a town manager with a ton of financial experience. We have a finance director now with a ton of experience. But the finance committee is not currently providing any ongoing oversight as to what's happening. And we're available and have agreed with the select board that we are available upon demand to work on specific issues or processes that the town would like to have help.
And we could say, and we would like, we would love, and perhaps some other residents would also like us to be, it to be requested that we do review the budget, look at financial decisions, and suggest how we could be used.
Well, yeah, this is the tricky part. I think that then makes it sound as if we're, there's a story behind this, and this, it's tricky. I think Wendy and I had this discussion because she was sort of bewildered about, like in Weston where we lived, the finance committee came to town meeting and their job was to provide an independent assessment of the budget. And they would make recommendations in town meeting to that you often agreed with the select board and the town, the trust select board, whatever the equivalent was there, but didn't always. And they were on the, and then the select board and the finance committee would be, and basically the finance committee didn't report to the select board. And she was sort of, surprised that we weren't that. And I said, well, that has to come from the voters. If the voters want to set that up, then they can. Anyway, sorry, I'm going a little bit afield. I think the question of how much advice and guidance we give and the way in which we give it in terms of what our role should be is, we need to think through that, because it could come across as being us complaint. We don't want to make people, we don't want to be overtly critical of the situation. I don't think it helps. That
No, I mean, I wonder whether it's very simple, and I just wonder whether we're a year ahead of, in 12 months' time, this committee may have work and support to do, but right now it's too early.
Well, maybe what we should try to do is draft something, taking some of the specific idea, taking the general concept you're talking about, Jill, and taking some of the specifics, say, Tom, that you raised about the kinds of things that could be done if this was the way you wanted to operate, and sort of say, sort of going back to our original document. So here's what other finance committees do. We'll do any of these things. We think that they could all be helpful, but you need to convene us. You need to ask us specifically to do something, and you need to be very clear about what it is you're trying to accomplish and how we can help.
Except that we strike the words, what it is you are trying to accomplish. We were always the ones who were trying to accomplish something.
Right, and so I think that no, but I think those are the most important words. You, the select board. I mean, anyway, you understand. I'm not trying to be confrontational about it, but some sort of. So maybe what we should try to do is draft. is just sort of draft a short memo that explains. I think
So-
we're allowed to do this. We're not really allowed to do this via email. Maybe we are.
Yeah, but John, this addresses only half the problem, right? Which is the more, I would call it theoretical one or strategic, which is our role. But then operationally, what is de facto the next step?
Well, then I think
And this is where I come back to, if we don't hear from you between now and X, then you've sent us a message. Because we are volunteers, we're individuals, we have other things going on in our lives. We can't be just sitting around waiting for somebody to call us just because they whistle, that we just run.
Well, I'm willing to do that for a period of, I guess my point is we can always do that in 6 months, can't we? Couldn't we say it's December 31st, you haven't called us, we're done, or some of us are done, or we're all done, that's fine.
So why not tell them that in advance, that you have until
Because
December?
Because
Because-
that's
Go ahead, John.
making an ultimatum, and we
Well,
We
maybe
have-
we need
I,
an
you know what,
ultimatum.
I'm sorry, I feel as a volunteer, I'm being taken advantage of.
well,
Maybe-
but
Sorry, Ellen, and then Jill. Go ahead.
I just say, maybe we need to give them an ultimatum. Because the fundamental problem is that we have no access to the data that we need to continue as a finance committee.
but I think it's even
And
more
if we don't get
fundamental,
it-
Ellen.
And to just say, if we don't get it, we're done. I mean,
Yeah.
we have or let's have more pointless meetings.
Right.
Where no one
But
has done
more-
anything because they didn't get any data.
Jill,
But isn't it more fundamental that the data isn't readily available?
It's not being made available.
well, the time it takes to get it to, I mean,
Because it's not
being-
readily available.
It's not being withheld, I don't think, it's just more that it takes time to give it to us. But anyway,
Okay.
I have a slightly different take on this question of why not tell them now? Why not give them an ultimatum?
Mhm.
Because I think giving any group that ultimatums, like that ultimatum, giving any group.
Deadline, you can call it a
Deadline
deadline.
could lead to them saying, like when I get a deadline, I go, oh, no, I really want your help. And then I don't follow up.
Hmm.
In other words, I don't want to have this happen again.
Right.
The best way for this to not happen again is to create no incentives whatsoever for it to happen, other than we need financial input.
Mhm.
If they need financial input, we're available. It's one email or a phone call away. We're ready, or some of us are ready. I mean, Kareem, it's okay. These are, we have, as volunteers, we have different views of volunteerism and so forth. They're all reasonable. I'm not being critical, but I'm willing to take that phone call anytime. I wouldn't even put a time limit on it. By the way, I might not participate. I mean, if you say, calling me, I say, sorry, I got involved in 7 other things. I don't have time. But I would be happy to do that. But I don't want to give any incentive for anyone to call me because they feel bad or because we gave them an ultimatum, because maybe they might need us. And if we don't say we need you now, then, so why don't you work on, the water company, work on the water company. What do you want us to do? Well, there's a water company. I'd rather just say, look, we're stuck. We've got a problem and here's what the problem is and we can't fix it. We need help. Okay. No. So that's the reason for not doing it. And I understand there's also a reason to do it. So, but I would vote for not doing it. I just, so.
I'd also vote for not doing it. I'm with John on this one.
Alright.
But I think there's a fundamental point we shouldn't gloss over, which is Eric didn't choose us. He inherited us.
Right.
And we don't really know what he wants us to do or if he wants us to help at all. And there's no evidence that he wants us to help right now. I don't think he has an axe to grind against us in any way. But he's just apparently not used to having a finance committee that
Or he may not.
has some independence.
Yeah, right.
Tom, I agree halfway with you, because even though you're absolutely right, he did inherit us. we did run the proposed projects by him, and he had a hand in influencing which projects these should be actually. So,
Yes,
And
that's true.
He's given us much way, I mean, the select board didn't even edit a comma on Jill's draft. You know, we've had no feedback at all from the select board. At least Eric basically said, you know what, I think we can handle the budget meetings. Why don't you guys work on special projects? And that was, he's given us 100% of the feedback we've received.
Yeah.
Just to defend him. Anyway, I'm a little bit cautious because this is a
I
speaker.
understand, but we're not saying anything that's outrageous, gentlemen.
No, I agree. Yeah, well. Okay, so
I think we have a good resolution to go forward to the meeting with the select board to talk to Eric about it, then to talk to the select board about it, and then let's see how the next 6 months goes. And I mean, we're all involved in these things anyway. So it's in some ways, it might, as we chat to select board members individually, it might be us saying, oh, that sounds like a great project for the finance committee.
Right. Well, I'll try to write something down. Oh, here's Todd. Hey, Todd. I'll try to write, we're just coming to the end of a discussion, but I'll brief you on it because it's what we talked about yesterday. Very
Okay.
I think it would be useful to kind of have a piece of paper that's no more than 1 page long, maybe 2/3 of a page, that just sort of tries to get this. And so I'm happy to draft that and send it around to the group one by one.
Yes.
Thanks.
And let's see if we can make good agreement. And I'll update Eric on our discussion as well, although I'll update him on his discussion, but I don't think we should do anything until we have kind of a document that's pretty simple and straightforward, not too elaborate. And then we'll ask Eric what the best way is to share that. I mean, we'll share it with him and then figure out what the best way is to share it with the select board. It may simply be to wait for the select board meeting. When they are asking each of the committees to do it and have them, and then tell them then, although giving them a heads up in advance would be fine, and using that meeting to hear what they have to say. So I'm going to up to Todd, just briefly to bring you up to speed. We talked yesterday about the idea that we're sort of pushing on a string, and I'm not talking about the specific modeling that you and I are working on.
No, I know.
But
In general.
in general, and I think everyone is in agreement that we should, step back, basically say, look, we're sort of pushing on a string. We're available for some period of time. If you want to convene us, give us something to do, we would be very happy to do it. And so don't disband us because it's a pain in the neck to undisband, band us, whatever the opposite of disband is. And some of us don't want to wait forever for that. So just, for now, call us when you need us and we'll be happy to step up. So
Perfect.
and you're comfortable with that.
If everybody else is, that's fine.
I felt a little badly that you've just sort of joined a committee that is half partially, that is stepping back, but it's nothing personal. So, okay. So is that all right? Then I'll just sort of draft something and we'll review it and Karima,
thanks, John.
if you're uncomfortable with the
No, look, I'm happy to go along. I think it's a good compromising plan. But as I said, there comes a point where I'm not willing to compromise anymore, but I'll let you know when I feel that it's not working for me.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and that's your right and obligation to do that. So we don't want to, and this goes for all of us, by the way, obviously, but I think Kareem is saying what we all think. Okay. So if that's the case, I've only got about 15 minutes. Todd has done a yeoman's amount of work to kind of try to clean up some of the water company data. And I have sort of some interesting snippets of insight from the data. There's still problems that we're trying to work out and resolve and so forth, but I can just sort of share some of this with you, and Todd and I will keep working on this for another week or so. I don't think it'll take us much longer than that to kind of get some of these things done and share it with Eric. this is like a tiny little piece of the agenda, but it's, do people want to see that, or should Todd and I just keep going? I mean, we can, it's somewhat interesting, but I could also share it via email.
Can you summarize your findings very
Yeah.
briefly?
Yeah, so the findings are a couple of things. First, we can't get data on pipe size, which was one of the dimensions on which we thought that the pricing, that the water working group thought that the pricing should be based on. It's not, I can't tell you whether there is data on it, but Eric has asked for it. He was told that they didn't have it. He said he would ask again. It's not possible, I believe, to run a water company knowing where the pipes are and not knowing what the pipe sizes are. I can imagine that there's no spreadsheet, but that data does exist. It's just, it may take a person a month to, a man month or person month to get it. In any event, we don't have it. There are other data integrity problems. Nevertheless, we have some data. We have basic data, several sets which don't agree on how much water people are using and how much they're paying for it. And if we just take that as the basis for examining the situation, our basic approach to paying for the water company is to give people enormous volume discounts, enormous, so that big users pay way, way less than small users. That's true in every category of customer. But in particular for the largest group of customers, not the largest users, but the largest group of customers who are residents. And Todd's been able to divide them into homestead full-time residents and non-homestead. What we can see from that is that the residents, full-time residents, pay a little bit less, about 15 or 20% less than non-homestead, which is good. The big residential users and the big users in every category pay way less than the average.
And that's per what? Because I'm sure there's a ratio. It's per
All
cubic.
four
feet.
Per
categories.
unit.
It's per
Just-
per cubic foot. They pay less
Okay, per cubic foot. Okay.
Sorry,
Yeah.
per cubic foot. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So what that says to me. So first of all, that the numbers that for the non-homesteaders, there's a large number of them. It's actually bigger than the resident population by a bit. For the non-homesteaders, they pay a premium over the homesteaders, but it's not a huge premium. From a percentage terms, it's about 20% higher. And that 20% translates to a very small dollar amount if you're a second homeowner. The average small resident pays $325 a year. So the average small non-resident pays $400 a year. It's roughly.
So sorry, John, not to interrupt, but a non-homesteader could also be a resident, such as us. We're set up as an LLC. We own the B&B, so we cannot declare as homestead.
You're
That's
commercial.
very-
You're non-homestead, but your non-homestead is both second homeowners and commercial.
Right. So
No,
but
no,
right
this-
now yeah. Sorry.
No,
go
in
ahead.
this case, I'm talking about residential non-homestead.
Got it. Okay. Got it. Yep.
Yeah, I'm just talking about individual people, yeah. Although this is true, as Todd says, this is true across all the segments. Basically, what it says to me is that, first of all, we don't know which of the projects are going to be commissioned. If we keep the rates the same as they are, the rate structure the same, meaning relatively speaking, why do I pay more than you, or why do I pay less than Ellen, whatever. If we keep the rate concept the same and we do all of the projects, the rates are going to triple or quadruple-ish for the small homeowners in particular. But what this says to me is that there are significant opportunities to mute the increase that the largest segment of the smallest people have, basically, to mute it by not increasing, by changing the way who pays more. Rather than having large people pay less per cubic foot of water, you could have them pay the same. Or I think the Water Working Group actually suggested that they pay more.
Well, I
So
think,
Oh, sorry, Todd first.
Sorry,
and then-
Todd, carry on.
I think the first thing first on anybody's water bill is what we don't know is who's getting charged a flat rate and how much, and then what is their usage? Because from what you said, your bill does not extrapolate that detail to you. You get just one number.
No, you get the usage and the number. You get
You
usage.
said that's not what you said last time I asked you. When you said, can I see a copy of a water bill showing me that you get charged $75
Right.
for a year for whatever, and then your usage? You said you didn't have that. You do have that.
Sorry, most customers have that. Most customers
So
have,
we could get that then. We would need that data.
correct.
Okay,
No, there's a whole lot of things that are gonna be gettable, including, I believe, pipe size that we don't have, yeah.
yes, okay. Okay,
yeah,
you
yeah.
originally told me that was not
Yeah,
available
okay,
when I
sorry,
asked about, that's okay. That's what I, because that's gonna make a difference between a homestead and a resident.
Correct. I'm,
Okay,
yeah, I'm not talking, I'm not talking about, yes, I'm not talking about how these payments get to be the payments. Like there's a fixed cost or a not fixed cost, or there's a big pipe or there isn't a big pipe, whatever.
right.
Or that you're a homestead or non-homestead. I'm just simply talking about what it is. And
I know you're talking globally, yes.
yeah, yeah. So what it
Uh,
said,
What,
I'm sorry, Jill, yeah.
Jill?
Oh, I was just going to put in the point that when we started off this project and we established principles, one of the principles that we thought should carry through on any pricing structure is some measure that incentivizes people to conserve water.
So so what we have now doesn't do that at all.
It's
And
the
so-
opposite.
But so there are two, right? So I guess the thing that I'm thinking about most is being able to tell the community that the increases that most of them will pay on a percentage basis is less than the increase in the total cost of the water company, because that increase will be borne proportionally differently in the future than it has been in the past. And the reason why there's that opportunity is because we could, for example, just do something very simple, make everyone pay the same per cubic foot, whether that's through a fixed charge or, that would, or we could have fixed charges that were different. Or we could have bigger users pay more. All of those things would would mute the increase. It wouldn't eliminate the increase, because the increase is huge, because there's just, huge in percentage terms, because there's just a lot of capital expenditures to spend. But it wouldn't be nearly as bad, or wouldn't be as bad as what people are thinking. It's $10 million, and my share of that is $1 million. Well, I don't have $1 million, whatever. The one conclusion I could draw is that the way that the pricing is done today would allow for reasonable ways to adjust the pricing so that most people wouldn't pay the full percentage increase, and some particularly large users would pay more because their discounts, which are heavy, would be reduced or eliminated and so forth. Now, whether we achieve that result with pipe charges or fixed rate charges or per cubic foot charges or all three or blocks, whatever, it would also, Jill, it would also achieve the other non-financial benefit of encouraging
Yes.
conservation.
Yeah.
So that's the conclusion at the high level.
Well, we could have different rate structures for usage.
Correct, exactly.
Okay, 300, if the standard is 300, whatever, that's one rate. Anything over that, the rate goes up a little bit,
Exactly.
and da-da-da-da.
We do the opposite of that on average.
And then if we could be able to, I think, globally, but be able to sit there and say, you've hit your limit, you're gonna be starting to get charged more, people may conserve. Or it's
Mhm.
February, it's March, and you're at 50% usage already, your bill's gonna start, by summer, your bill's gonna go up 20%. Because you're using too much,
Right.
Plan ahead. So that people, that'd be a nice thing. That's way down the
Yeah.
road. But yeah, I think we still need more, we have some data and stuff like that. The one thing my takeaway was that the residents support both all industry groups. The residents are paying a lot more percentage wise. Somewhere, was it 14 or something?
Yeah, 14%, something like that,
They're
yes.
subsidizing the businesses and, by 14%. So the businesses are getting a really good deal right now.
And if you divide it by large and small, the small residents are subsidizing the big residents and everyone.
Yeah, it seems to be like a little bit mishy-mashy of who gets what, how much water everybody's using, and we don't know because there's no meters on anybody.
No, most people do have,
Okay.
but not
They
everyone.
do.
Most people, but not everyone. We don't know.
Okay.
And we don't know if they're reads. We don't have the meter
We know
reads.
that they
Yeah.
have these.
Yeah, we know, they have
Okay.
meter, most
Oh.
customers, but I don't know what
Yeah.
percentage.
But isn't there a danger if you push some of the biggest users too hard that they would withdraw and drill their own well?
Yes.
Yes.
Except that they may not be allowed to drill it in certain areas, in the village. I don't think it's that.
Yeah, let me just say that this is the limit of the limit of what I think this model can
Yeah.
and should do. Is to I'm not considering at all the policy implications of what I just said.
Okay.
I'm just basically making.
Me
that-
too.
I'm-
I'm
yeah.
just saying that was the data. I'm not saying it's good, bad, or
You're just
indifferent.
finding out what is currently happening.
Yes.
But I think that the inconsistencies with what's currently happening
Mm-hmm.
would allow for, let me put it this way, if there were no huge negative policy implications of doing what I'm doing,
Mhm.
there's a financial way to mute the impact
Yes,
of the people who are the largest number of voters.
right.
And that's where my fixed cost conundrum comes in. If you're paying $100 fixed cost
Mhm.
and only using, 200 cubic units, and industry is using, getting charged $100 and using 5,000 units, you can see the homeowner, there would be a higher, and there would be a percent. I don't know why, and that's what I was trying to sit
Right,
there and say, if we could get that number,
Yeah.
we can take that out of the equation, and then look
Yeah.
at just usage.
Right. A fixed cost
Okay.
always discriminates
Skews.
against the small users.
Yeah, I have a
That's-
feeling, and I don't know what that percentage is, but I think it would put it more in line.
Right.
And that's why I would like, I think it'd be helpful just for clarity,
No question.
because I thought that was the one thing that popped up when I saw
Mhm.
that, and I'm like going, why would that be?
Yeah.
And I had a feeling that there's got to be a fixed cost in there somewhere.
Yeah.
There is, we just can't break,
We just don't. So I thought that would be helpful.
Yeah, perhaps the fixed cost is for those that do not have a meter. They have to
Sorry,
charge
say it
them
again.
something. Maybe the fixed costs are for those who do not have a meter. Just have to charge them something.
See, and that we don't know who gets charged a fixed cost or what,
No,
why
if-
yet. We don't have that
Yeah.
data.
We don't have the data in
So we
Excel,
don't
but I
know.
believe that there are.
It's available.
Yeah, and I believe that there are fixed charges for everybody, but
I would
the
believe-
volume is estimated based on the number of bedrooms or the sewer usage. I can't remember what it is that.
So just logistically, are you guys receiving data and trying to interpret it? Or are you also meeting with somebody who works at the water company to ask some basic questions?
We are not, the approach that and Todd, I haven't talked to you about this. Todd and I, we have been given data. Todd has done a great job of cleaning it up. It can't all be cleaned up without working with the water company.
Mhm.
My approach, which my suggested approach is that we build a model on the data that we have, which I'm doing, I've done. I haven't finished it, but I'm getting close based on the data that you've sent back to me.
Mhm.
To basically share with Eric and say, this is the kind of analysis the model can do. It can show you that residential homesteaders are paying X and non-homesteaders are paying Y. And et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, just on a per cubic foot basis. We don't know how that total cost was arrived at. Maybe it was a fixed cost, maybe it was a pipe size, maybe it was something else, maybe it was a discrepancy, maybe it was a key punching error. But if you just take this data, here's what's going on. And here are some ways, if you had to spend this much money, if you're gonna need if you're gonna need double or triple the revenues of the water company, which you will need to do if you do these 7 projects in this period of time at this interest rate, borrowing money at this interest rate, then here's what will happen to each of those segments and their rates. If you do nothing, if you just simply increase everyone's rates proportionally, pay for the extra money you need, or if you basically charge the fire hydrants a lot more, or if you basically make everyone pay the same average rate per cubic foot, no matter how big they are or small they are or what segment they're in, or if you do the following. There's through 2 other things you could do. And it basically says, okay, before you buy the water company and before someone goes in and spends, literally hundreds, if not 1,000 person hours to clean this up, here's roughly what this, the flexibility you have to target who pays, not how they pay, but who pays, which segment pays for the increased capital expenditures, no matter who owns it, the increased capital expenditures. So that's what I think we can do, and what would be useful to them. And so what Eric, Todd and I will keep working on it, and then when we're ready, we'll share it with Eric.
And who
So
do
a couple of
we have?
concerns though, if I
Go
may
ahead,
jump
I'm
in,
sorry.
is as hard as you guys are going to work and as many additional hours you're going to put in it, there is a risk, even at the fringe, that you might be misinterpreting the data because you're inheriting something, right? So that's why I asked whether you could even do a sanity check on the way you're interpreting things and the way you're reading it. So that's one point. The second point is what you're proposing as a potential model that might not even be feasible with the MIS that these guys have, the systems they have, which might be just manual ledgers, who the hell knows? So that's another layer of potentially risk that, you guys are building something that might not be able to be used practically in the future. And that's why I asked whether it wouldn't be a good idea to get these guys involved somehow.
Yeah, so how would we go about meeting with the water company now?
Can I just say, I've been involved in these projects. Cleaning up this data is going to take
Okay, so sorry, John. I'm not
400
talking
to
about
500
cleaning up
man-hours.
data. I'm not talking about cleaning up data, which I understand is going to take a lot of time. Just saying that, okay, so this is the data we got, and this is how we're interpreting, this is how we're understanding it. Are we correct? They're going to
Correct,
say yes
yeah.
or no, right? And then
Right.
second, here's an approach
no,
that we might be proposing.
They won't
Is that
say,
even feasible?
the first thing is not correct. They won't say yes or no.
Oh, okay. So because they don't want to or they don't know how to.
Because what we are presenting to them is the data we have suggests that the average revenue per cubic foot is $6.60. I can guarantee you that they will say no. So,
Okay,
so let's
maybe there's a reason why they would say no, and then you get that reason and you could reject it, or it might actually be an aha
Helpful
moment.
to, yeah.
hey, now we're 1 minute into the 400 hours. My argument here, I don't disagree with anything that you're saying.
Mhm.
The consulting project that is needed to help a company with very, very poor record keeping develop a clear view of its economics and pricing structure
Mhm.
is a very straightforward project. The only problem with that project is it takes a shitload of time. And it involves, and there's no one who can answer that question, because the only way that they could have answered the question would be to have the information system that they don't have. And so this is, for example, to get pipe sizes, what we're going to need to do is to sit down with one person who used to work on it from a company that installed the pipe and go through the maps of the thing and basically say, wait a minute, that pipe was put in with it. you can tell for the person where they have the people that are being billed who don't have a meter.
Mhm.
We can say, well, where do you get the data, you know, to do the estimates? Because they base it on what I think the water treatment, you know, how many bedrooms it is. Well, we
Right.
went to the planning commission. The planning commission doesn't know. I mean, they told me already. They don't know exactly how many bedrooms people.
Oh,
I-
can
I
I
just-
just,
I-
can I just,
Based
can I
on number
intercede?
of people,
Please.
Jill.
This,
not number. of
so
then-
we have the one place we have been asked to do something that can help with decision making is to provide some basic information to the select board on how the charges could be changed. So we can either wrap ourselves up in knots about modeling and data quality and come up with nothing, or we can say, what can we sensibly say from what we know right now? And if that's just 2 points, which is there's a very different cost per unit being paid depending on how much you use, and we recommend that it becomes a flat fee. Number one, we've done our job. And maybe that's all, and then the fire hydrants, we address that question. And then all the rest of this is not really going to affect people's decision making.
Yeah. No, I would be fine with that. Basically.
Yeah,
basically-
I'm just worried that you guys might spend a lot of hours with something that,
It's not important.
Yeah,
no, it's not important. It might practically be difficult to implement, or it might be difficult for some people to wrap their heads around, okay, so what decision is expected of me? And I think the middle of the road is somewhere between what Jill said and what you guys are doing.
well, here's the meeting that I would not want to be. Here's the questions that I would not want to be asked, which don't get answered by what Jill said. By the way, I'm totally comfortable with doing what Jill said. You're asking me I'd like to be called on. Okay, the moderator calls on me. I'd like to know what's going to happen to my bill, just roughly. And I'd like to know the basis on which you're telling me that. Is my bill going to go up by 50%, by 150%, or by 350%? Because those different answers, one of those answers means I need to move, and one of those answers means I can stay. And I'd just like to know, if I vote for this, if we all vote for this, do I need to move to another town or not? Before I vote for it, I'd like to know that. Now, surely, as you're buying this company, and remember the ranges I gave you, 50% or 150% or 350%. I'm not asking you for, is it going to go by 42% or 44%? I'm not asking you for a copy of my bill. I'm asking you for these broad ranges. Can you tell me that? Now, what I'm afraid of
Mhm.
is that the town's answer to that will be, no, we can't really tell you that yet. We need to buy the company. We can't really tell you that yet. Forget it. Let's just stop there. To which I would respond, and if it were me, I'm just one person, I would say, there's no way I'm voting for this. Period. Full stop.
I think we can get to that number.
No, it's not, that number isn't in Jill's summary, which is what
No, I think,
I agree with you. We can get to the number we can get to now.
yes, but I think we can get a lot further, a lot faster if we could just breathe for a second.
Yeah.
And I'll look at your one line thing. I did it line by line when I did, okay?
Leave that problem aside, yeah.
It's not a big enough, we're talking 1,000, whatever usages, whatever.
Cubic feet.
Cubic feet. Okay, but if we can just get some basic data, which I don't know how to ask for it. And I would love to be able to just ask somebody, and I would like to ask. I don't need to go through somebody to ask, which is to ask for that fee, flat fee. Okay, and if I can know who to ask, then that would help me out in my head. Okay, so that would clean up a lot of stuff. Now it comes down to, the model is, we can sit there and there's 5 projects that they want to do, or whatever, we know the hydrants have to be done.
That part we have, yeah, that part's already
But
gone.
that's gonna be all changed based on what they choose. So the bill is gonna go up based on a very subset of, very.
That model is, it's already built.
Yeah,
Choosing
so,
those things, it's already done.
so you've got, so when you throw these numbers into that model, what do you come up with?
Well,
You have it. What are the numbers then?
right, they come up, it depends how you price it. If you price it, it depends how you price
Keeping it exactly the
it. No,
same.
then that's 3.5. Let's say 3 times. It's gonna go up by 300%.
So can you share that data with everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, that would be really helpful, because then we can all think about it.
Yeah.
And say, because I think the data that they've given us is the best that we're gonna get.
Yeah.
For the most part, and I don't think it's really that bad, the data. I do think there's some pieces which would be, added pieces which would be helpful. Got that. And then in looking at, one of the other piece that I has in my head is if something breaks, who pays for it? The water company or the
Yeah.
homeowner?
Yeah,
So do we know that?
Right now, it's the homeowner.
So
the
I know the
homeowner?
answer to that because
You
it
do?
happened. Yes. So when I lived in Connecticut, this situation with the water company happened. The homeowner is and Tom can back me up actually. The homeowner is responsible for the pipes on their land, and then it becomes the town's responsibility.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
That happened to me also. It's
And
called the supply line. Goes to where the water connects to my house and then out to the street where they had the meter that they just drove flying. Yeah.
Did you have to pay for the meter then? They put it in?
They paid for the meter,
Okay,
but, well,
Okay.
and then I assume it was somehow on my bill, but,
okay.
It's
And
a
it would be
little
nice
bit
to get a
more,
copy
sorry.
of a handful of bills.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a bill yet, and I would love to see a bill if someone has one that they could send me, just so I could see what it looks
Todd,
like.
I think your willingness to dive into this, is a change. Is a change. I don't mean that you changed. I mean,
Yeah.
it's new information.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I need to interject because it's a little bit more subtle as far as who pays for repairs. I can give you an example. We have a slight leak, and because the equipment that supposedly is on my side of the sidewalk has been installed 600 years ago, they cannot do anything about it. So they need to go to the other side of the street, and I would have to pay for it, even though it's not on my property.
Guys,
Is
we're
this
not-
what happened
we're
to
not
you
modeling
too?
this. We're
I-
not modeling this. There's no way.
No, I didn't repair it then.
We're not modeling this, guys. Forget it. Not possible. I mean, I'm not gonna
Okay.
be involved. You guys can model it, but no way. We're so far from being able to understand that.
I agree. I am not,
Yeah,
I agree
let's
with you.
work. I'm willing to work. I think,
I was just curious.
yeah, I'm gonna spend some time with you, Todd, with respect to the data. And if at the end of that, you're still willing to undertake the kind of work, it's gonna mean going to the place where the paper is, and doing that. And if you're willing to do that, which is fantastic, that's exactly the kind of work that needs to be done.
That's what I'm happy to do.
I know, that's fantastic. That's new information. So Todd and I will work this out. And if there's a further initiative there, which would be great, then we'll get Eric's decision about whether or not to allow.
If we're allowed, I don't want to step over anybody's.
No, of course.
I
And
just
if we're
wanna-
allowed to do that, then we're gonna send Todd in.
Yes, if he says no, I have no problem. I don't need to do it. I'm just saying that, be helpful.
yeah.
Be hugely.
Give them the opportunity. We give them a one-shot deal. I will go in.
Right.
If they don't want me to sit there and take my little car into their shop,
Okay,
game over.
all right.
Then we can,
So,
then we have,
so
then we
coming
have the
back to
data
the
we got.
beginning of.
and
coming
I
back
think you
to-
might be right. We don't really have a lot to go on.
So coming back to the beginning of our meeting, that project that you guys are working on, that's something Eric wants or the select board wants? Or is it
Not
something,
clear.
again, we're working on and we don't even know if they're gonna use it?
This question of Eric is, we're going to find that out. That's
Yeah.
the answer to that question will tell us the answer to that. Because this is gonna be, it's very non-trivial to do that. Not just for us, but for them too. And so we will use this question to find that
I
out.
have a feeling I'm gonna be in a little stanky little
Well-
barn somewhere with a computer.
And the answer to the
Someone knows
question
what
is going
this
to
is.
depend very much on whether it's going to affect negotiations.
Well, I think it would affect,
That's what
all
I
I'm
mean.
worried about is the vote, not the negotiation. I don't think it will affect the
I have no
negotiations
idea.
at all. And if they're not worried about the vote, that's fine with me. By the way, it's just my opinion. I just,
You know what I mean?
This is-
we don't,
That's what I mean.
I'm gonna
this is
go.
exactly the same as the school project.
I could leave.
Well, hold on a second. This is exactly the same as the school project, right? Nobody asked any questions until the school project was on the board, and then basically they voted it down because the explanation of because no one could answer the question that I asked.
Right.
I mean, I shouldn't say no one could. It was too hard for people to be able to answer the question I asked, which is how, well, am I gonna have to move or not?
Right.
And so, you know, so if, that's just my one, I'm just one person. If that was my meeting that where I had to do that,
Mhm.
I'd know the answers to all these questions. It's not my meeting. So, and here, when we've identified the path to get better answers to it. So I apologize, but I've run into a time commitment here, but I think we have two things to do then. We have one initiative with respect to this water company model, which we'll find out, Todd, you and I will, and
Okay.
we'll report this back as soon as, and if we need to have a emergency meeting or something of the group, we can always schedule that with a couple days notice.
Okay.
I mean, legally. And then I'll also draft the kind of the less than 1 page statement. I don't think it's attached to our earlier discussion. That's why I wanted to have that first.
Mhm.
But I think we're agreed on the general direction. Let's just edit the document and, you know, and see if we can agree on the words and so forth. But I don't think it'll be too hard because I think we're all basically the same place. So
Great.
I'm sorry for the timing of this.
No, does anybody else have any questions that, or input to sit there and say what data we should ask for that we're missing besides pipe and fixed?
Can I let you guys continue this meeting?
Sure.
And then just simply turn the recording off. It'll record automatically.
Oh, cool.
And I
Yeah,
get.
I'm gonna have to drop too, guys, so.
Okay.
I have a couple, Todd.
Okay, I'll let you guys, I'm gonna let you guys finish this up, and then could someone just take a motion at the end to
Mhm.
adjourn, because we still have a quorum.
Okay.
We will still have a quorum. All right, thank you.
Thanks, buddy.
Oh, I have to make someone, I'll make the town hall, okay. Town hall is now the host, okay. Sorry.
No problem.
So Todd,
Yeah.
my question, the pipe size information.
Mhm.
If it's not available, then that's just fine. We do it on units consumed.
Correct.
It's not,
But
it's
we can at
not.
least ask, so again.
right.
Are you off to tennis?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Enjoy.
Bye.
That was all I had to say.
Okay.
I just really want to emphasize the point that soon is needed within, the information is needed within weeks. We'll have, it's better to give 80% or 50% of the information on time, which is
Mhm.
now, than 100% 6 months later when it's going to not be valuable.
Okay. I gave my data last week and a half ago. And then it's been with John as he's been working through it. He said he found, wanted to confirm some data. And I said, can you show me exactly what you want me to confirm? And he just sent me back the spreadsheet. And then I sent it back to him this morning and said, here's how I did it. I did it line by line. I was able to verify pretty much everybody's company, name, address, and usage, our dollar bill,
Oh,
dollar amount,
okay.
line by line by the two spreadsheets. They didn't map originally.
Okay.
Because there was a line off.
Ah,
Okay, there was a missing line, and I just had to populate the things down a little one line, and things pretty much I thought all mapped. He did send me one little one this morning, finally, and said, here's one example. And I said, that's what I asked for, is like, send me an example of where I made a mistake. I'm more than happy to look at it again and find out if it's me or what's going on.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I'll look at that. I don't think my data is bad. I think the fixed cost would be helpful. What else do you have, if we can ask? And do I ask Eric for it? He won't tell
Yes.
me who.
Everything has to go through Eric.
Am I allowed to just go ask Eric now?
Yes.
Or, okay, I don't want to do that if it's against rules.
No, just tell him what project you're telling me you're working with John on the water project, and you
Okay.
have these questions, and then you'll get an answer.
Okay. Any other questions besides those two that you think might be helpful?
No.
I think those are the two most helpful.
Yeah.
And then it really comes down to, if there's 10 projects on the list, we know we have to fix the hydrant. So that's part of the That's in the model.
Yeah.
The others are, which one's which one's the town or the town feels is necessary that they want, which would
Mhm.
change the cost.
Right.
And they're the ones who have to sell it to the town, not us. We're just giving them the data.
So do you understand the fire hydrant thing, Todd?
No, it's the one thing I don't understand is the fire hydrant thing. Other than
Okay,
you
you
can't
need-
build a new house, you can't get water
Yeah, so
until
you
this
need
is
to
fixed.
you need to understand that the fire hydrants is proxy for what non-water customers pay. Because any charge that the fire hydrants pay or
Mhm.
that would be shared amongst all of us.
Every single resident,
Yeah.
not,
Including me in South.
yeah, so even me with
Yes.
my well,
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe,
Yes.
and I believe I believe I should pay. Personally, I believe I should pay for these fire
So-
hydrants because it's in my best interest to have the town standing.
Right,
Okay,
right.
but that's not what they're
So-
charging.
They're charging us
So,
nothing.
we don't need to discuss this philosophically, but as
Mhm.
you come up with alternatives for how much fire hydrants should pay, that
Mhm.
is what it means.
Right.
Yes,
It's a tax on everybody.
and I was thinking the same thing, is that the one anomaly was like this 300,000 or 400,000 cubic meters or whatever he calls it of water.
Mhm.
That was sort of an outlier. It was just a blank number there. And I assumed it was for the fire hydrants. John said he wasn't sure if it was for the fire. He didn't believe it was for the fire hydrants. And I said it had to be for something. And the fire hydrants were the only line that didn't have a bill. But they had a large usage. They
Yeah.
didn't have, they had a large bill and it mapped
Right,
dollar for dollar,
I get it.
you do the
Right.
math, it
Yeah.
sort of seemed reasonable. So I threw it in the hydrant.
okay,
So that's gotta be the hydrant. I'll confirm it if I can talk to the right, if I
Yeah.
can meet with them and talk to them,
Yeah.
I can confirm that pretty easily. It's one number.
Okay,
So I'm comfortable with all of that. I'm happy to walk into Eric's office now because I saw him go in and
Okay.
ask him my two questions.
Mm-hmm.
I'll even offer to sit down with the water company folk.
Right.
And
Great.
show, and ask and whatever data whatever they can help us with to grab and let him facilitate that for us. Does that sound reasonable?
and then we know the answer to this data question.
Yeah. And then we can,
Next.
and I can throw it together in a handful of hours. It's not
Okay.
400 hours.
Great. And then Ellen, I think that we were asking for data about wastewater. I think we just wait a week or so until the water guys have worked out exactly what they can do, and then we'll have a much more specific request, and we'll ask Todd to move and work on that project with us.
all right, that sounds.
Cool.
that
I know
sounds
they're
good.
related because
Yes.
and duplicate work efforts, I think
Right.
FTE wise. I
Yes.
think you mentioned last time that
Right.
the person who runs the wastewater can run the water. Or they
Yes.
can-
Well, I think it's that the people who don't have a meter, they're on a fixed, they have.
Yeah.
Their rate is determined by,
The sewer bill.
basically, it's the sewer charge, which is basically a declaration of how many people are
Flush the
living in your
toilet.
home. Huh?
Well,
Some
the
people
sewer,
flush the
so
toilet.
to get it correct, the sewer charge is based on water consumption. If there is not a meter measuring water consumption, the sewer charge is based on the number of bedrooms in the house.
Okay,
That's the current system.
No.
No?
Because I'm on the sewer. And it's based on, there's a declaration where you either have a single user, you have two people, or you're a family.
Oh, you're right. You're absolutely
it's
right.
not-
There was a
and that was the
proposal
whole-
to change it. Yeah, there
That
was a
was the whole
proposal.
thing that they wanted to change. There was
Yes.
some talk about changing it to bedrooms,
Yes,
and that was,
what is
but
it?
that was never done.
Single.
I agree.
Single, two, and then family?
Right.
It's
And
number of users, so it should be 2, 3 or something. The interesting thing is that I see the bills for 2 houses. One has no water, so it's estimated. The other has water. The
Oh,
sewer bill
you've got the
comes out
good info.
exactly the same. So it
Mm.
works.
Okay. Yeah. But if anybody
So
can,
the only way that, I know it's convoluted, isn't it?
yeah. So if
So
anybody has,
if you don't have a water meter, then the water company uses the sewer data. Okay,
mm,
they use,
No.
they use.
I don't think
for
it flows
the-
that way. Does it?
They use this declaration thing
mhm,
to figure out what the sewer bill will be. Okay,
mhm.
it's.
So it's a
fine.
personal declaration.
Huh?
It's a personal declaration.
That's right, I'm paying the family rate right now. Even though my daughter is in Burlington, right? Because she has her driver's license attached to my house. Okay. So we have a family. Yeah. Those are the. Okay. But if she were to move to like California, then there's only two of us.
You get a
So-
whole rate.
You have to go, you know where you go to pay the sewer bill? You go in there
I don't have.
and
to
say
do
you
it.
want your rate lower. Okay. What?
And then it comes before the select board and they allow or deny.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay,
the
so
same
there, okay,
thing
there
if
is
you
a check and balance, okay,
Uh-huh.
there is a check and balance,
Yes.
okay, I just thought it was just sort of, anybody could walk in off the streets. and say-
No, it has to be approved
No,
by
they
the.
they do some verification. of it.
Yeah, that's reasonable,
I would-
okay, so it's not
No.
total fly by night,
No.
that's,
Okay, I'll leave you to ask your questions then. And
Okay.
I'll find a bill, I think, and send it to you.
Yeah.
I can find
Okay.
one.
Do we have a quorum to close the meeting, is that what we need next?
Yep,
Yeah,
I'll,
I
motion.
move to adjourn.
I second it.
I agree.
Meeting is adjourned, we don't know how to turn off the computer.
I'll have a look. I think.
Bye.
Good to see you.
See you later.